In cases where an application for the MPNP is being considered for refusal, a Procedural Fairness Letter, PFL, will be sent to the applicant and their representative if applicable. The applicant has 30 days from the date of the letter to submit additional information to address the concerns identified in the letter. If the MPNP application is refused, the applicant has no further remedy and must submit a new expression of interest if they wish to reapply to the MPNP in cases where the applicant has been found to have engaged in misrepresentation. They may be subject to a ban that prevents them from submitting another application to the MPNP for a period of 2 years. Welcome back to Perceptive Mindset, and I thank you so much for subscribing for those who have. And thank you for asking the questions. It does help with the direction of the content, and I'm sure other persons who are going through the process will also appreciate. And so today I'll be continuing this answering the question series. And this question, even though I typically respond in the comment section, I like to do a video for the benefit of everyone else. For those who are not necessarily paying attention to the comment section, they can benefit as well, because I think the questions are representative of other persons who are going through the similar process. And so Harpreet asked, or he stated that his MPNP status has changed into assessment complete. So he was wondering what that meant. So this was my response. I said, congrats, nomination certificate might be on way to you in the mail. That usually follows next. And I use the word might because as a follow-up, I gave this response. So once assessment is complete, 3 things can happen, and this is just realistically and practically the case. A PFL, which is a Procedural Fairness Letter, and this is where the province may have some concerns about some of the info you have presented, and they want to give you a chance to respond to their concerns instead of outright refusal. And given I like to also give the source material, so it's not just coming from my opinion, I'll take you to the Immigrate Manitoba website where it spoke about procedural fairness, and this is what it says. Procedural fairness applies to all Manitoba Provincial Nominee Program applicants received on or after April 30, 2015, replacing the request for review process. It provides applicants with an opportunity to respond to the program's concerns prior to a final decision being made on their application. In cases where an application is being considered for refusal, a Procedural Fairness Letter will be sent to the applicant and their representative if applicable. The applicant has 30 days from the date of the letter to submit additional information to address the concerns identified in the letter. So once you obtain a Procedural Fairness Letter, PFL, it is always with a view that your application was being considered for refusal. However, they'll give you an opportunity to respond to whatever concerns, be it misrepresentation, be it documents that you have submitted that they are not verifiable, whatever the case is, they can issue you a PFL, and you have 30 days from the date of the letter to submit additional information to address the concerns that they have identified in the letter. The PFL is the only opportunity given to the applicant to address the program's concern. Any additional information provided at any point within the 30 days period will be taken into consideration before the officer issues a recommendation on the application. If no response is received, a recommendation is issued with the information available on file. All recommendations are reviewed by at least one other officer before the decision is finalized. If the application is refused, the applicant has no further remedy and must submit a new expression of interest if they wish to reapply to the MPNP. In cases where the applicant has been found to have engaged in misrepresentation, they may be subject to a ban that prevents them from submitting another application to the MPNP for a period of 2 years. And that is it. So if after your assessment is completed, you are issued with a PFL, make sure that you seek some legal advice in order to best respond to whatever concerns. Because in cases where application is being considered for refusal, that's when a PFL will be sent to you, the applicant. So in a nutshell, I did not cite that source. I will have that link in the description, but this was my response to Harpreet. So once assessment is complete, 3 things can happen. Procedural Fairness Letter, and this is where the province may have some concerns about some of the info you have presented, and they want to give you a chance to respond to their concerns instead of outright refusal. That sounds like the same thing, right? It's just more condensed here. So they can refuse or they can approve and issue nomination. If assessment was completed and you didn't get a PFL, I'd be happy. Please keep me posted. I'd appreciate it. So that was my response. So like I said, typically I respond to anyone who asks a question in the comment section. I try to do that, but then I do it in the form of a video and cite sources so that you can feel that the information that you're getting is concrete and not just based on my opinion. And so I will link this in the description. So if you're watching, you can go directly to the source, and there are more information there that you can read on. Okay, so they spoke about a request for review, but this only applies to applicants or applications that were submitted before April 30, 2015. All applications submitted after this time, there is no review. The applicant has no further remedy if you submit an application to the MPNP after April 30, 2015. There's no review. This is what they will do instead of a review. They issue a PFL, that's a Procedural Fairness Letter. So instead of outright refusal, they will issue that PFL so that you can address the concerns. And this is where I'm not offering you legal advice, but this is where I would say if that is the case, make sure you seek some legal advice in order to respond the best way possible to change that mindset of the officer from a refusal to an approval. And also, it's important to note that ignorance is no excuse for misrepresentation. Ignorance is no excuse for misrepresentation, and so it's important from day one when you have completed your expression of interest profile that every single thing that you said, you're able to substantiate that. It's important that you are honest. It's important that you do calculate the years of work experience you have, your education, all of that. You have to make sure that all of the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, because if you misrepresent, you can be subject to a ban, and that will prevent you from submitting another application for a period of 2 years. So another question was asked in other forums that I am present. Someone asked, when your Manitoba Provincial Nominee Program application is in assessment in process stage, what does that mean? Okay, so I can just quickly answer that as well for the benefit of anyone that is watching. So when your MPNP application is showing assessment in process, it means that the MPNP team is actively reviewing your application to verify your eligibility, and they're also verifying the supporting documents. And here's what you can expect next. So first and foremost is the assessment and decision. The MPNP officer will evaluate your application, based on eligibility criteria for the specific stream that you applied under. Your submitted documents, including proof of employment, education, financial stability, and connection to the province of Manitoba, completeness and accuracy of your application, all of that will be assessed. Now, the outcome, if everything is in order, your application will progress to the next stage and you will be nominated. If additional information or clarification is needed, MPNP may contact you or request more documents. If they are contemplating refusal based on some misrepresentation, they can issue a procedural fairness letter, and that is what we discussed first. Now, if it is that you were not issued with a PFL, then nomination may likely be next. So if your application is successful, you will receive a nomination certificate from the MPNP. Now, this nomination allows you to apply for permanent residence through IRCC at the federal level. So IRCC will handle your PR application. Now, you will also receive instructions on how to apply for the PR. So this involves submitting your federal application, completing medical exams, undergoing background checks, all that good stuff. You may also need a work permit support letter from the province of Manitoba if you plan to continue working in Manitoba whilst waiting for your PR. Now, I had covered previously there are two different routes that you can go for a PR application. You can do the non-express entry or the express entry route. So if you had an express entry profile that you had linked to your MPNP, then once you receive your nomination certificate, then it would state that you are an express entry candidate. And so once you receive the nomination, the 600 points will be automatically updated to your express entry profile. And then you just be there waiting for an invitation to apply. So whilst you are waiting for an invitation to apply, make sure it's the same, similar process to when you submitted your expression of interest profile and you gather all your documents. Pretty much it's the same information pretty much that you will need, except that you will do a medical and you will be more rigorously checked in terms of your background, but it's the same tips. Do not misrepresent anything that you indicated in your questionnaire. Be prepared to substantiate in terms of your work, in terms of your education. If you have your credentials to be assessed, if you don't have Canada education and you only have education outside of Canada, you need to get those assessed. For persons who do have Canadian education and it is the highest level of education, if you want to get points for those education, then you can get them assessed. But if your Canadian experience is the higher level, then it's not necessary. But if you want to get points for those credentials, you can get them assessed. And you pretty much just wait for the decision, wait for any instructions that you get from your federal government. I hope that you would have learned something regarding the AIP status as well as assessment complete. That's for the Manitoba Provincial Nominee Program. As usual, I appreciate the questions in the comment section. It does help me to direct the content, and I'm sure other persons can benefit from the info as well. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe. Hit the like button. That way other persons can see the information as well. And continue asking your questions so that I can share the responses and others can benefit. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.